Virtus in Veritate, welcome to FORTIKAST, the official broadcasting arm of Paraf Northfield's official school publication, Fortibus, sharing good vibes with the Northfield community every Friday, at 5 p.m. Please welcome your hosts, Lucan Slamzon and me, Miggy Lopez.
Hello, Mariners, and welcome to FORTIKAST. And welcome to our 10th episode. And in this episode, we will be talking about balancing three important things in life: your family, prayer, and school. But if you're a bit older, work. But before we get into this episode, I would like to ask Miggy, how was your week?
My week, well, I'd like to say that I've been relaxed and having fun this week, but that couldn't be further from the truth. With Family Day coming up, with our school year coming to a close. It's been very hectic. How about you, Lucas?
For me, I've also been quite busy this week, especially with studies because the midterms are out. Oh, well, midterms have been out, and also the school year is about to close, especially for me. I think I have about 1 week left or 1 to 2 weeks left of school, and then I'm done already. Also preparing for Family Day, a lot of practices going on for both Angkor and Binta. Very, very fun practices. Also for Holy Week, preparing for that also mentally and spiritually.
I heard you guys are going to a retreat for Holy Week, right?
Yes, some of my friends and my brothers and I are going to a retreat that was uh, organized by Lantaka Youth Club. So let's pray for one another for this Holy Week. So how about you, Miggy? Are you going anywhere, or are you going anywhere this Holy Week?
Well, as much as I'd like to join the retreat, our family is going to be out of the country during that time, so I won't be able to join.
Mhm. Wow.
Although,
Uh,
I'm hoping to enjoy it.
I hope you have fun. I've been to. I Do you mind tell us if where you're going or?
Well, we'll be going to Japan actually. Very
Mm,
excited.
it is. I've actually been there once. It was very cold, and there's a lot of good places there, and the food especially. So yeah, I hope you have fun there.
Thank you.
And with that, guys, I think we're ready to move on. Let's go to In Focus.
So, sorry. For today's episode, as Lucas has mentioned earlier, we will be talking a lot about how to balance family, prayer, work, or school, and often we may find work eating away at the time we have. It,
Mhm.
it can be very difficult to maintain any balance, really, even more consistent one that's easy to maintain. Sometimes you think you have it figured out, you think you've managed to schedule your life, but then you realize, you know, some activities you wanted to do, some
Yeah.
work that you needed to get done, you don't manage to get all of them, you know?
Mm.
So, for this episode, we wanted to invite people who we think have figured out the answer to this question. Uh, please welcome Sir John Pascual and Sir Kiko Perez.
Hello, sirs. Hello, Mr. Pascual and Mr. Perez. Again, welcome to FORTIKAST. So, for those who don't know, I would like to ask you guys to introduce yourselves. Sir Pascual, you can start.
Hi, good afternoon. I am John Pascual. Uh, I am a faculty member of Paraf Northfield. I started working in Paraf Northfield since 2014, and I have been I have had experience teaching the various subjects. I'm currently teaching religion to the grade school students this year.
Uh, Mr. Perez, how about you?
Yeah, so I'm also like Mr. Pascual. I'm Mr. Francis Perez. I am a teacher now of grade 2. And actually, with Mr. Pascual, we are both alumni of Northfield. So I recall him being in the higher batch. And then when I was in high school, he was already a teacher of the lower levels. And then now we are co faculty. So yeah, I think that's
Wait,
it.
so how long has Sir Pascual been teaching then? For how many years?
Well, you mentioned 2014. So
Ay,
apparently
sorry.
9 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that make it 9.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct.
Are
Uh,
you, um, Sir Pascual, do you have any favorite subject? I know you, as you said, you taught various subjects throughout your years, and as right now you're teaching religion. Do you have like a favorite subject that you like to teach students, or like you liked in school that you know that you wanted to teach the students?
Well, I enjoyed teaching English before, and um, I recently got the assignment of, well, this school year,
Hmm.
recent is relative. So uh, for this school year, religion was a nice bit of change. Actually, I think I feel I got to understand the faith more. So it was a nice change. Uh, However, I'm also quite interested in teaching science, especially biology. So it was one of my um, favorite subjects before. So I think in grade 5, that was when I enjoyed learning about biology because uh, that was when we were talking about and exploring the different organ systems. So I was very interested in um, how to take care of the body, human body. So, yeah.
well, it's been how many years since then, and yet I still also remember when back when I was in grade 5 and we had that same topic about organs and the body. It really piqued my interest, and science is very interesting. Until you get to chemistry, and then it becomes really hard, and you no longer want to do science. But you know, yeah, bio can be very fun.
Hmm. How about you, Mr. Perez? Do you have any favorite subject, or do you have any subject that eventually in the future that you would want to teach your future students?
Well, I am presently happy in teaching English. After all, I finished an English related course, which is journalism. But I'm also open to teaching religion as well because one of my pastimes in high school was teaching catechism and doing visits to the poor with even some teachers in Northfield. And it used to be a club actually in Northfield. We called it ECAT, E meaning English, and then CAT of course is catechism. So we would alternate in teaching both those topics of my own interests. So there.
So,
Yeah, me
like
too. I also go.
even when you were in like younger grade school, so was English always like an interest, a passion for you?
Not exactly, because there was a time in high school that I got more acquainted in Filipino. Kasi kasanayan ko talaga magsalita ng Tagalog. Mas pananagalog kami dito sa bahay kumpara sa English. Mas na-hone ko lang yung skills ko yun nga, as you know, I was also part of Fortiviewers, and then I decided to take up journalism in college. So there.
So
That's cool.
Fortibus helped you in like choosing your college course, journalism.
Yeah. The
So
moderator then was my mentor, and he was encouraging me to hone these skills.
So guys, that's a reminder for you guys if you want to, if you in the future, if you guys are interested in writing or interested in hosting, don't be afraid to join FORTIKAST. It's always open and very fun. right, Mr. Perez?
Well, you have to ask Mr. Pascual.
Well, actually, I had my stint in Fortibus as well. No? So when I was a student, um, I, back then Fortibus was, you know, it was a newspaper organization. So we had to produce articles, and we had photography there as well, and cartooning. Now, since the pandemic evolved, yeah, Fortibus transitioned into the online. So this is actually an interesting phase for Fortibus. It's also interesting if you're going to continue with the live stream. I think yes, you need to do this, and also perhaps the hard print. I'm not sure if that could be discussed then. So
Actually,
Let's see.
it
That's
was
was also
also
interesting.
there when Mr. Perez was actually a member of Fortibus, and his moderator now is Mr. Villaluna. So
Yes.
Fortibus um, was really getting a lot of the limelight, because during this time they actually won Catholic Mass Media Awards. So that's a big thing. It allowed the school to get recognition. So
I
I
think,
hope
sir,
you
you'd be
guys
glad
also
to hear.
continue
Sorry,
in your own way.
I think, sir, you'd be glad to hear that. Yeah, it's one of our goals actually to, once we can maintain a consistent schedule with the podcast, and once we have we have a more, what do you call that, once we have maybe more manpower as well, we are hoping as well to revive the newspapers aside from just the podcasts, because yun nga, that's originally what Fortibus was about. So it'd be great if we could bring that back.
Yeah, so again, thank you for your introductions, Mr. Pascual and Mr. Perez. So, with that, going back to the topic, I would like to ask you a question. The question is, when was the last time you've taken a break and to relax and to reflect? This time we can start with Mr. Perez.
The last time I took a break was right before this episode. One of the ways to, I think, alleviate stress, or even I would even go as far as saying sadness. I remember this from St. Thomas Aquinas, is by eating a piece of chocolate. Anything sweet that will help you uh, rejuvenate uh, you from everything that's trying to take control of you, so to speak. So I just went back to one of my childhood favorites, which is crunch, especially in a time where they call it crunch time already. There's so many things happening in Northfield. Kaya naisip ko, crunch na lang. So there.
Indeed,
Do you
there
have
are
like a
quite a
whole
lot
pack
of.
of those, sir?
Mixed chocolates.
Yeah, indeed, there are a lot of things happening in Northfield right now. Family Days coming up, also Holy Week, so let's pray for that and prepare. I would like to bring back the question to Sir Pascual. The question is again, when was the last time you've taken a break to relax and reflect?
Um, as a teacher, you're also um, you have a quite a tight schedule. So fortunately for this day, I was able to get a good lunch. So it's important to keep yourself um, at peak performance, and for that you need the energy. So just like what Mr. Perez mentioned, that you have to also um, keep yourself in check when the crunch times arrive. So just recently, the we just finished the midterm grades, and then there's a family day. So family day preparations. So
Yes, sir.
we all know this. All teams are busy, and even the teachers are busy. So
Yes, sir. I've seen you actually. You're if I'm not mistaken, the head of the anchor practice, right, sir?
yeah, so example, no, like yesterday I arrived from the practice. When I got home, eh, we had dinner, my wife and I, and then right after that I fell asleep. So yeah, you get sleep, and then you be aware of your meal times. So you try to get food in.
Actually, sir, I realized nga, a very important thing to maintaining, you know, a good mental state and general happiness is to make sure not to let go of the little things, having eating a good lunch, getting your a good amount of sleep. It's the small things that really help you, stay frosty, And so moving on to our main questions, I wanted to ask how, in general, how do you balance family, prayer, and work at the same time? Uh, Sir, would you like to start, Mr. Pascual? Sorry, would you like to start, Sir Pascual?
Um, well, these three are important things. No? So um, you maintain your relationship with God through prayer. And then, of course, you have to do work. As a professional, I have to do work. So it's connected. All things are connected. So um, with my work, I'm able to provide for the family. So all three are combined. So uh, how do you balance? How do you know the what to do first? Um, Kasi our time is limited. Like you only have 24 hours a day. So you try to assess, you try to think which one is more important or more urgent. Okay. We always like to say we put God first. I agree with that statement. So um, that's why we begin our classes, we begin our day in class with prayer. We put God first, and then everything comes second. So um, the takeaway there, I think, is to know what's important. Okay, if you say God is important, then put prayer first. Uh, I understand everybody has different schedules. Okay, you guys, students, and then as teachers, no, what we can both put into our schedule, I think, is prayer. So it's just a matter of, I guess, um, deciding how much time you're going to put into that. So I guess you could be flexible. Could be flexible with it, but you try to commit to that time of prayer. So um, yeah, I, I would follow up more with the with our how our conversation goes. So perhaps Sir Kiko, you could
Yeah.
fill in.
Well, I agree with Mr. Pascual. You really have to set the tone of the day with prayer. As soon as I get out of bed, I always do it with something that we do in our morning assemblies, the morning offering, and I really get nakokonsensya ako if I don't get to pray before everything I have to do during the day. So I'm already used to praying half an hour before everything happens. But yeah, I mean, there's no perfect me. There's no perfect day. There's always lapses. So even if you have a plan, uh, you have to be very flexible because it's a plan. It doesn't mean that when you come up with a plan, it's going to happen perfect from top to bottom. There are always going to be surprises, and I remember what Pope Francis would say, that these surprises, God's surprises, are good surprises. So I like to see it from that perspective, that even if things don't go into the way that we want, or the things that we like are not happening, let's not end up getting frustrated, because we're going to waste a lot of time in our frustrations, in our disappointments and sadness. Let's take advantage of those opportunities to get back on track, even, or to do something better than what we originally planned. I mean, the fact of it all is that you can't really, I would say, balance everything at once. You can't do everything at once. You really have to be patient with oneself. At least that's from my experience. No, patience rather towards oneself, making sacrifices when needed, but never sacrificing others. You cannot sacrifice others. You can probably sacrifice yourself, but that's not also healthy, so to speak, in the long run. But I think what Mr. Pascual said is true. Choosing your priorities. So maybe for a time, this is something that you can work on, something that you can do. But in the long run, you decide really what are the important things in life. I mean, what's going to bring you towards your goal? So you have to go back there, back to the basics. What's your goal in life? What do you want to do? And then you make a plan out of it. And then again, like what I said, that plan is very flexible, because it's not really having, it's not a matter of having the same plan for everybody. You can't force someone to follow your plan and then expect him to follow it 100%. There is this Spanish saying that I always like to reflect on, and it goes, "Cada caminante siga su camino," which means each wayfarer follows his own path, as long as it leads to that goal which you think is very important. So I would even go as far as saying, when you think of, for example, in Northfield, you have the four core values for success: HOPE, humility, order, piety, and excellence. And when you speak of humility, there's no other explanation that comes to my mind except that you really have to realize that you're nothing before God, that you're nothing without Him. And that's how you have to set the tone when you pray. For example, you begin with prayer that, Lord, I'm nothing, you are my everything, and I cannot do everything that I want to do without you. And that will help you prioritize. So from H to O, which is order now, and you try to organize what are the most important things. Again, you set everything, you set the tone of everything with God. So you ask always, like what we do in class. We start it rather with prayer. We end it with prayer. We convert our work into prayer, like what I said, in preparation for Father Julius' visit, because what we do is the work of God, and this is what He wants of us, so that we can become saints. And through that, with that constant effort, with that plan, I would say, that spiritual plan of life, we lead towards developing P, piety. And then with the piety, with that love that we put into our work, with the love that we put in our family life, with the love that we put in our love for God, excellence. That's why HOPE makes sense in that manner of speaking. So, like what Mr. Pascual said, I think there's much more that we can discuss in the following questions. I don't know if you guys have inputs, or Mr. Pascual too. You might want to.
I have a few things to add there. Just a few things to connect with. And um, I remember this from my conversation with my mom, especially when I was conversing or telling her some stories about Northfield. And she's also actually, um, she's actually working with Perez. So anyway, I mentioned to her that we have these events happening and all that. And then she said to me, which was very important, that we try to um, give importance to the relationships. So I think that's also one thing that you could weigh in when you're trying to choose the important things for the day. So what are the relationships? Um, for students, your important relationships are with your, of course, your classmates, okay, your teachers, and perhaps the parents, your own parents, or the parents of your friends. So, um, what's important? You're trying to maintain good relationship, well, amicable, friendly relationships with everyone. In our work as educators, I realize now how important relationships are. Okay, um, so us teachers, to a certain extent, we need to also uh, be, you need to be maintaining that friendly atmosphere within the classroom. You, you can't have a good lesson if no one is actually interested or participating. Okay? That in that sense. In the same way, also, um, when it comes to talking with the parents, okay, you also listen to the concerns. Okay, so uh, you have to give value to the relationships that you have at school, or we can say, since Mr. Perez is here, our our work is school. So yeah, we have to connect with people, and we have to give value to that. And I think in our relationship also with God is a connection. So you also have to give value to that. So,
Yeah, I think just to add with what Mr. Pascual said, no, because the relationships, I definitely agree. These are non-negotiables. Like with the many things that happen within the day, these are things. These are people whom you can never forget. And even if you have worked with them, even if perhaps you run into some trouble with these people, don't cancel them out of your life just because they did something wrong or because you had a conflict with them. These are still people, which are the most valuable compared to the many things that perhaps will be very little in the big picture in the long run. And another thing, maybe when one comes up with a plan, or one goes through the entire day, and again, like what I said, we have to be very flexible. There are many things that suddenly come out of nowhere, and this has been my experience in the past 6 months since I started in Northfield. I plan many things that I have to do, and I end up doing nothing. uh, the person I'm with in my office can attest to the fact that I'm like a ghost. That I haven't really sat down on my table because, again, being part of a school, I mean, you can never turn down, especially students, especially the youngest ones. I mean, if they ask for something, my mindset really has been, personally, my mindset has been listening more than speaking, more than saying anything else. It's more of listening because because from experience, really, I learn more from them than the students learn from me. So I try to take that as really good feedback and then work on my own strengths and also trying to help them because I am, after all, the formator which their parents entrusted me or entrusted them to me to be with. So yeah.
Sir, it really does make sense that it's understandable that you would learn more from, well, your students, because think about it, there's like what, there's 30, 60 of them, and then there's you. So, there's a lot more like sides to this that you could learn from. And going back on the previous thing, you say you put the highest importance to relationships, right? But relationships have subcategories, family, friends, work friends. How would you order that, sir?
Who goes first, Mr. Pascual or me?
Yes, sir. Since
Okay.
you're muted first.
Well, from experience, really, it's family first. I mean, the phrase family first um, is very self explanatory because, yeah, I can help out in Antaka, I can meet with my friends, but I can never sacrifice the time I spend with my family. Like, a lot of my friends, even from college and even from high school, don't understand this when I have to say no. Um, at least it's something customary, I would say, or something that has been tradition in our own family. That every Friday, I have dinner with the mom side of my family, and we're practically complete. And every Sunday, I have the same thing with the father's side. So, like right now, after this broadcast, I'm going to drive to my grandparents' place. We're going to have dinner. And we look for ways to contribute, not just to be there, not just to, like, I even make it a point of thinking what I'm going to share to my grandparents. What are the things I want to talk um, about with them, and of course how I plan to talk with my cousins there and even my siblings, because we're coming from different places. We're old. We come from different work, so workplaces. So I mean, it has grown from the time when I was still studying in Northfield, and of course you you eventually look back and realize, huh, they have been a strong support, even if even if, for example, in YouTube you have those videos, or practically online you have those content that say sometimes family reunions can be toxic, family reunions can be, you know, it can affect you or your plans, etc. But I think it's always important to keep an open mind, even if you get frustrated, because at the end of the day, who provided something, who provided your education, who provided your family life, who provided your upbringing, it's them. That's why I definitely agree with what Saint Josemaria said, that 90% of your vocation, your upbringing, is owed to your parents.
Well, there's
Uh,
actually a lot that I'd like to add on for that specifically as well. But before that, I want to hear Sir Pascual's like, thoughts on that, or answer to my previous question as well.
my answer is slightly the same with Mr. Perez answer. So he mentioned the importance of family. So you see, uh, I agree with that. And as a professional right now, looking back at my parents and how they took care of my family, my sister and me before. So they always made it a point that one of them would fetch us. Yeah. So that's big, and I realized how valuable time was. Now I'm already working. It's very hard to do that. Right? It's very hard to fetch your own kid, especially now. Okay? I mean, traffic is not. It was a very different situation 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even. And you're a working professional. Okay, so um, to for them to commit to that, okay, the idea of setting aside time for your kids, okay, to pick them up after their school, okay, that was very big. So, I say family is important, and then the second thing I'd like to add there was, in my experience, I think, uh, I I want to be honest. Okay, sometimes I'm I'm already confusing Northfield as family. So I've been with Northfield for a very long time. If you're going to add the years as a student and as a teacher, so it's kind of a complicated answer for me. So there are some cases where I find myself responding to two messages for work, which I realized, hey, I should be spending this time with my family right now. Then I think that's where the priority, okay, hits me. Okay, so there's also what you call the urgency in my work, in our work. There's what you call, we need to also respond to some things right away. So what am I trying to say here? You have to choose. There are times that you have to choose, okay? And um, since I know which of the relationships are important, that's that's when I try to um, make the hard choices. There will come definitely come those times when you have to make the choices. And then, okay, when you have those days where you are uh, blessed with more time, okay, in those relationships that you have with your family, your friends, or with God, okay, that's the time you try to, in Filipino, they call it bawi, bumawi ka. And so you sometimes you find yourself canceling from your friends. Hey, I can't make it, guys, to this time, but I can make time for here at this day. Is that all right with you? So since you have to give premium to your relationships, okay, you also have to reassure your friends or your family or your workmates, or in your case, in our case, students, your mentees, you have to also reassure them that you can make time. It's just it's just a matter of setting aside time.
Compromiso.
Yes, sir.
Which, I just to add, the example of Mr. Pascual, I can really, I definitely relate to that as well because I didn't understand before. I was complaining, in fact, why am I not like riding, for example, school buses to Northfield where my classmates are together? Why are my parents bringing me to school, fetching me, etc.? Why am I even being fetched at a later time? Because I had an older brother who also studied in Northfield. But then I learned how to appreciate the fact that, again, my parents really wanted to give their everything for me, even at the cost of their own leisure. I mean, I could really see it up until now, and this was something they even picked up from my own grandparents. Just to give you an example, a few months ago, I found out my grandmother is terminally ill, and the time that she was even rushed to the hospital, we were out of the country. In fact, when the moment we just landed, where we were going to have our family vacation, she was trying to our my grandmother was trying to withhold that information that she was rushed to the hospital because she was really selfless. In the reason that she gave was, wag mo nang silang istorbohin. Gusto kong magpakasaya sila doon. Bahala na ako. I can take care of myself. Even at the age of 85, even at the detriment of her own, her utmost need, she was not thinking of herself. And this was something I have seen in my parents in the past 26 years of being together already. And again, going back, why naman I stay later in Northfield? Why am I not picked up so early? I think it's also because I have started to, I really, I would say, fell in love with Northfield already as if it were my family as well. That's why I I never doubted that after graduating from college, I want to come back and help Northfield in my own little way. Um, because throughout my years in Northfield, of course, I had different opinions of what course to take, of what plan to make in my life. So, as I mentioned, I had this interest for a time to take up Filipino in college, or interest in programming, or interest in music. But at the end of the day, even if I took up journalism, I said, I want to teach. I really want to teach, and I want to be a part of this community, and that's why even if I feel overburdened, overloaded, many things to do in a school, I don't know why, but I end up going home, not complaining about the many students I had to talk with, because every time I deal with each of them, I'm like, this is gold. This is precious for me, and I want to cherish every little moment of it. And I hope that will be the same for the rest of my, I don't know, life, if I do end up teaching for life.
Sir, it's very, interesting. There that like hearing you now, hearing both of you now, and thinking about my own family as well. There's a very important difference between selfishness and being selfish and being selfless, and uh, whether you spend more time on your work and or more time on relationships. Because like for example, the thing you were telling us about your grandmother who didn't, who wanted to hide the fact that she was terminally ill to not bother you. My grandmother did, the exact same thing. When we were the first time we went, well, at least me and my siblings went abroad, our kitchen caught fire, and she only told us after we got home. So, in that sense, they're very similar. But in terms of, balancing work and family, I think from what I've seen with Lucas as well, like I've been to your place, I've met your siblings and all that. The three of you, like your family values mainly consist as well of, uh, sorry, what do you call that? You know, caring about your relationships. I actually very rarely get to see my whole family together. At the most, like once a week or twice a week, we get to have a dinner all together. And so it's very interesting, and that even with similar personalities, they tend to be very different. Like Lucas, diba, when I went to your place, they're you guys like spend a lot of time together, right? Hello,
Yeah, we
Lucas.
do. And yeah, hello, hello. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
you're
a
good.
bit
You're
lagged. But yeah, we do spend a lot of time with each other. Like, my mom actually, so a bit of background. My parents, they had my mom at least. She had a really good job. Like she had a good job. She was making quite a lot, and after, she was doing good. But then in the pandemic, she decided to quit her job. And I was like, Mom, why? You and Dad are getting money and all that. But then she said, I wanna quit so I can stay with you guys. So that also gave a sense like, oh, like you're gonna give up your job. You're gonna give up the money that you make just to spend more time with us. And that felt really, I felt really happy. Like now we get to cook. Like before, usually, uh, I wouldn't be able to cook with my mom, but now almost every day I can cook with my mom. Like she cooks different types of stuff, and also we don't have a yaya anymore, so she's the one doing laundry. She's the one doing the food, cooking dinner, lunch, making sure that we're all ready. So the love that she gives to us, to my family, is really, really, really important. Then as like what Dom Toretto says, or in Fast and Furious, right? Something about family, like there's nothing stronger than family. So what he said was right. And also, I'd like to go back to what Sir Pascual said about something about prayer. That prayer is very important, and we need to, have a schedule for it daily. My mentor, Mr. John Jopai, also said, kahit you set aside 5 minutes every day of prayer, that's okay na. At least find 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or how long you want. If you wanted an hour to talk with God, because with Him, if you tell Him about your experiences, and tell Him like, Lord, I wish for this to happen. Maybe it could happen. And um, yeah, that's all I have to say about that. And some and for some comments, to Sir Kiko, this is from Kobe Kamaso. To Sir Kiko, do you have any tips on how to start habits like being able to pray every day when you wake up?
Well, you really have to start with a plan. And when you come up with habits like that, you can't do it at the same time, like all at once. Like if you wanna start praying, like the rosary, attending mass, ganyan, do it one by one. Like what Lucas said. If your goal is to spend an hour or half an hour of prayer, start with 5. Like, don't rush to the 30 minutes. Baka after 1 minute, nagga-gadget ka na lang dyan sa tabi mo, or kung ano man yung binabasa mo, nasa YouTube ka na habang nasa oratory or whatever. So, the point being is that if you really want to start something, like if you want to form a habit, I mean, always keep in mind why you want to do it. So you want to do it out of love for God. I mean, if that's the reason why you want to pray, it's not for the sake of praying or that you look holy or banal or whatever you want to be called. It's really because you want to talk to Him and you want to listen to Him, and then you want to receive that love and use that as your motivation for every day. Because, yeah, I go through every day. I will not hide the fact that in most days I still feel discouraged. I can still experience sadness even if I spend an hour of prayer every day or even longer, because life is going to be that, with all the crosses, all the struggles that we have. You just have to remember that, again, you're not alone. First and foremost, you are with God. Even if you don't talk to Him, even if you don't pray, He's going to reach out to you with His hand, and He's going to lead you to it eventually. So, I mean, that's an example if you want to start with a habit of prayer. I don't know, maybe Mr. Pascual has other ideas for this.
Well, I find myself, when I pray, I find myself also starting off with the prayer. We call vocal prayer those things like Our Father, Hail Mary, or Glory be. I start off with that, and then if it's 5 minutes of prayer, start off with the vocal prayer, and then I try to connect my intentions for the day. So it depends on the priority of the day. It could change, and like what Mr. Perez also mentioned, there are times that you also need to talk to your students, and then when I do have those breaks, or when I start the day, usually when I start the day, that's the time I pray. I remember the conversations I've had with the students or the parents or my colleagues. And then I try to pray for the specific ones that you see. You also get to weigh the concerns. You pray for the student who's having trouble focusing on on on, on let's say on studies, or you pray for the colleague who is struggling with some personal issues, or you pray for some parents who are also having their own concerns, some things like that. So um, these things, I don't know if uh, some of your parents might have also um, taught to you before, but uh, you can talk to God in your own way. That's what I learned from my own mentors. Like, you can talk to God with your own words, not just limit yourself to those vocal prayers that you know. The only rule there is that you know who you're talking to. Okay, you talk with respect. So with that, your 5 minutes, that's rich already. You're um, you can already fill that with a lot. And sometimes I find myself, my 5 minutes, I just say nothing. Yeah, you just dedicate the 5 minutes saying nothing, silence. You let the other person speak. In the other case, in this case, God is speaking to you. So sometimes you just send the inspiration there. The thing you need the most, He sends to you right there. So I also remember my other mentors. They said when, or I think it was my priest teacher in college before. He said, God, when we give our time to God, He multiplies it. Sometimes you're worried, I might spend too long in prayer. Then you check your time. Oh, okay, I still have 25 minutes left. And you realize you can do a lot. So there, no? That's how I respond to that. And I like to take this chance. Hi, Jordy. Hello, Jordy. Shout out to
Yeah.
for
Jordy
his
there,
commitment.
Hello, Jordy.
our grade 2 student.
Yeah. Actually, just to add, no, because one of the things I also learned is with what Mr. Pascual mentioned, you can use those vocal prayers like the Our Father, Hail Mary, and bring that to your own personal reflection. So, like what he said, you don't have to be so structured in how you converse with God, because again, that's I think Saint Teresa of Avila said. Your personal prayer is like sharing a cup of coffee with God. And whatever you do, in kwentuhan, in voice calls in the middle of the night, uso na yun sa mga bata, in Discord, whatever,
Yeah,
ganun din sa pagdasal. Because we forget most of the time that God is also a person like us, who feels like us, who talks like us. And that's the best way that you can relate to Him. Everything that happened in the day, everything, like for example, I talk with students, ganyan, I pray for them, and I pray about them. I pray about those things that I hear, that I learn of, that I experience. Because at the end of the day, siya ang may sagot sa lahat ng nangyayari sa akin. Siya ang may sagot sa mga problema, sa mga kabutihan, etc. And so,
Yeah.
again, like what Mr. Pascual said, many times you will actually find yourself dumbfounded. And that's what Saint Josemaria realized at one point. Don't speak, just listen to him.
Yeah, that's honestly true, sir. Like, sometimes again, I find myself like quite like I can't think of anything. Like, what should I say? Like, uh, what should I say? Like, there's so much I want to say, but like, where do I start? And all that. Like, if I want to start 5 minutes, like, but I have so much to say in 5 minutes. So like, I think God really is your best friend. Like he'll listen to you, he will answer you, and he will forgive you. Like there's no, I mean, you can't ask for a better friend than that. Also, who loves you. Like if you ask for him to be there, he'll be there. If you do something bad and you ask for forgiveness, he'll forgive you. So that's why God is our best friend. And like, just talk to him. Like I have a lot of mentors, even you, Mr. Perez, who tells me like talk to him like a best friend. Don't need to be so formal. Don't need to be so yeah. Don't need to be so formal. Just talk to him like how you're talking to with a friend. So yeah.
Well,
Mickey, do you have
one
any
more thing I
comments on
wanted to
that?
say. One more thing I wanted to say quickly. This ties what Sir Pascual said about sometimes the very important with prayer is just to be silent and listen. You know, as Sir Kiko said earlier, it's you learn more listening to a bunch of grade schoolers than you do teaching. What more if you're listening to God and what He has to say, even if it isn't said back through words. You can sometimes words aren't enough or can't really express everything that needs to be said, and so sometimes just the silence and in silence with God, you get to really feel what He has for you and get to understand that more.
yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah, I guess we
That's a
before
good
we move on to
insight.
our yeah. So before we move on to our second question, while we talk so much about the first, before we move on to our second question, we can look at some comments from Michelle. With the help of teachers like you and the school provides, if my son grows up to be a good man and one who appreciates and values his friendship and families, I will be a very happy mom. Um,
Thank
Kiko,
you po,
sorry, not Kiko.
Michelle.
Mr. Pascual, any comments?
Well, thank you so much, ma'am, for that. We we try to we try to be good role models for everyone, and I hope that uh, the students they find at least one teacher that they could open to, and we there are many different personalities of teachers in Northfield, and I hope he opens to his mentor or any of his subject teachers about anything that he needs help. So we're happy that you're able to tell us this thing. So it encourages us to do our work better. Thank you so much.
I'm not a teacher, but I
Okay.
can imagine reading that must be incredibly fulfilling, to know na what you do and the people you nurture, you know, uh, grow up to be as good, uh, sorry, grow up to be good people, must feel, it must be one of the best feelings as a parent or as a teacher, to see someone grow up to be like that. Uh,
Well, what
Yeah,
you shared rings a
for
bell from
me
what
too. I mean, I appreciate all the teachers.
I think what Miggy shared just rings a bell from the visit of Father Julio last week. If you remember, the message he gave to us community was that the school is not just a business of, again, forming people who are intellectually high up there with accumulated diplomas, etc. But we are in the business of forming people who can look back many years from now and say, I have lived a very good life, forming good relationships, forming ourselves with how we are professionally speaking, our prestige, our if we are called to starting a family, and if we're not, whatever brings us to that goal, which is really applying the values that we learned, that were taught to us by our parents, and appreciating it to the full. Even in situations, I would say, if there's no other term for it, for the lack of a better term, even in irregular situations, because it will become the norm one day. That I mean, right now, no one among ourselves can claim to have a perfect family, because that's not the goal. The goal is to look for it in our imperfect situations. That's the challenge for us.
Sir, that reminds me of something that I found to be pretty saddening to see. Because I have a younger brother who's 7 right now, and I was surprised to see like the things he gets for like schoolwork and ganun don't really inspire growth in character. Like he gets, like, from what I've seen, all he gets really are things like math homework or ganun. Like I feel like the formation these days has been lost in a lot of schools, but that's one thing. That's actually one reason why. Oh, goodbye, sir. That's one reason that I find Northfield to be so great. Because life isn't about getting academics or getting a perfect job or things like that. It's about the people. It's about the life you live. So to grow up only knowing academics and only knowing and never really properly growing up with people. Yeah, I find that I hope that uh, how Northfield nurtures students is spread for more, and that becomes more of the norm rather than what's happening right now.
Yeah. To be honest, that's very true. Like I've noticed in my past school, like the formation here is just really different. Like I asked a friend, like he moved to a different school, and I asked him, how's that school different from here? Like it's the formation. Like I always hear everything. Like if you hear the word para, for one of the first things that probably will come to mind to some people is the formation. Like you really see it, like character development. What I see in Northfield, like the formation that they bring to students is really like like wow, like really. So I'm blessed to be in the paref system, and like the formation they have taught me really helped me become closer to family, to my friends, and and God. And a comment from Kobe saying, all of all of us are all of us under the Paraf system are very blessed to have this kind of formation. And yeah, I really agree with that. So with that, we can move on to our second question. Wow, we did put so much on the first. The second question is, how do you prioritize tasks regarding family, prayer, and work or school? Do you use any strategy or tactic to break down the endeavors? Um, Kiko? Oh, sorry. Sir Kiko, would you like to go first?
Yeah, well, again, since we've already talked about it, the priority really is, again, if you speak of the virtue of order, God comes first in everything, no matter what. I mean, of course, if you're not a believer, then of course, you know what comes after that. So for me, it's really God, family, friends, and then work. You might be wondering why I put work below all of these priorities. But like what Mr. Pascual said, relationships are more important than everything. So the relationship with God, the relationship with our family, than our friends. I mean, you can never replace family. You can never exchange it for friendship's sake. Um, for me, it's my challenge uh, as I enter my or as I've entered my stage, my yuppie stage, young professional stage, wherein I have to really look time for friends. It's hard because all of us are also looking time for many things. So at least we share that same burden, at least in this first year. But really, I would suggest God has to be the first, like what Mr. Pascual received as an advice. If you put Him first in everything, He will multiply your time. You will be surprised that even if you spend maybe half an hour of prayer every day, then everything comes so clear to you in your priorities, in what you have to do, in the things that you fail to do still, even if maybe you feel like God assured you that you'll be able to finish this today, but sadly you don't. It's because He has better plans for you. He knows the better plan for you. He has the reason for it, even if you don't understand what's going to happen to you. But again, like in this question, no, how do I prioritize? For me, I'm not really best at taking mental notes. So I try to really come up with a schedule. And one of the other advices I received was that, and I think this is not as common, no? I find this also very foreign to me, even to my system right now, uh, that Sunday should actually be the very first day of the week for any Christian. Because once you've set the tone from that day of the week, then you know how to plan everything else with God. Because as you know, Sunday is the Lord's day, and you know the rest. So for me, that has to be really the day in which you both look back and you set the tone and you prepare for the coming week.
Mhm.
Because without Him, you can do nothing.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind me reading, there's this prayer that I actually learned when I was when I was in high school. And it summarizes everything for this question. No? It says there, direct we beseech you all our actions by your inspirations. Carry them on by your gracious assistance. So that every prayer, every work, everything that we do may always begin for you and by you be happily ended. And I want to make an emphasis on that, happily ended, because with Him you will be happy. I mean, that's why Saint Josemaria would say, uh, not a day passes by without the cross. But he didn't stop there saying that. Not a day passes by without the cross. He continued it by saying, not a day passes by without the cross, carrying it with joy. With joy. Even if it is a cross, we can see how he carried it with joy. And I think that's something good to reflect on as Holy Week is approaching.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree that you should put God first. Because just like I was saying that my parents say like, do your best and God will do the rest. Like you give your best, like you give your best to everything, like no matter what it is, kind if it's just a simple homework, and if you do your best in that, God will do the rest. Like it shouldn't, and also it shouldn't be like your plan, like, oh, I have a plan to do this and this, but what if God's plan is not your plan? Like, so really talaga, like we should let God, we should do our best, and then just let God handle the work.
Discuss the plan with him.
Yeah, talk to you
Dis-
guys, can talk to him about anything, and then you know it will just move on. Sir Pascual, how about you?
Well, we Mr. Perez discussed about prayer life already, putting God first. Um, I agree with all of those things. You know, putting time for God first, and then what I'd like to add is something that could be useful for the students. Um, I'm not saying that prayer is not useful, but I think it's a study technique. I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar with the Pomodoro technique. So um, it's a kind of system where you focus. Okay, for the guys who are doing their studies, you focus on your studies for 25 minutes. Okay, you time yourself. Okay, and then okay, you take a quick 5-minute break after you work on your task. So in that 5 minutes, you're not working on the task. You do whatever it takes to rest. You could okay, you could take a short snack, okay, go to the CR or something, okay, drink your water, right? So 5 minutes, no work, no study. Okay. Then you have to time the 5 minutes. Okay. You have to be strict with yourself. Okay. And then the next 25 minutes after your break, okay, you dedicate to another set of study or another set that of tasks that you need to accomplish. So um, that goes 4 times. Okay, and then okay, you repeat that cycle 4 times, and then at the after the fourth, you take a longer break, like say 30 minutes to an hour, to reward yourself. So I have had a batchmate in college who tried this in her, let's say, I think thesis work. Yeah. So she literally opens a tab for her timer. Okay, and then she's just going to, like, for the 5-minute rest time. Okay, she's just really closing her eyes and listening to music, and then after 5 minutes, she types on her laptop and tries to quote some of the books and readings in her thesis work. So it was amazing. Um, I I I think I tried this before, but then what really works for me as a student and also um, as a professional right now is to know when my peak hours are, when I have my energy at the highest. So usually I put the bigger tasks ahead there. So example, you start the day, I wake up, and then I make a mental note of the things I need to accomplish, and I really assess, can I really do this within 1 hour, or should I break it down into smaller tasks? Okay, I assess myself. I see how much time can be done, and then of course you have to respond to some emergencies along the way. Like Mr. Perez mentioned, you cannot really see everything. You create a plan, of course, but then not everything goes according to plan. So what do? Okay, you make the most out of the time. And then, okay, as a student, I know for a fact that I I am more awake. I am more alert in the morning. So I study in the morning. I do my reading in the morning. I can't do the reading after 4 p.m. I can't. I literally can't. And I can't work. I can't study. I can't read if the environment is noisy. So you as a student, you have to find what works for you. Right? You get to know your strengths and weakness first. So in my case there. So I spend my study time or reading time in the morning. Sometimes like there are days when you wake up like 4 a.m. and no one's awake in the house. Okay? So that's gold for me. When I was studying, then okay, I do that. I don't recommend that you do that. But uh, after a while, after about 4 a.m., I find myself feeling sleepy. Okay, I put down the book. Okay, go to sleep. Resume. I resume the reading some other time. So that's that's my take on the question. So know yourself. You try the study technique, okay, but you have to assess yourself then and your time.
I think just to add with what Mr. Pascual said, no, there's this quote attributed to Saint Ignatius of Loyola, which goes, "Pray as if everything depended on God, and work as if everything depended on you." And with that quote, I recall one of my first few meetings with Mr. Hensha. He was not yet in Northfield then. I was still in high school. He was still in Southridge. And one of our few get togethers was that he mentioned this student. Uh, Probably he was not prepared for his test. So his thought process was, I just have to talk to God so he can take care of it. So instead of going to the classroom, he just stayed in the oratory the entire time he was supposed to have his test. In other words, he escaped. So I don't mean to say with that quote of St. Ignatius is for you to escape your responsibilities as a student, especially in taking tests in performance tasks, by literally not being there. But again, it's a matter of playing your part along with the grace of God that comes when, with your hopeful abandonment, not to abandon your work, not to literally abandon your student life, but give it to God and play along with it. Work with Him. So there.
Sir, I think I'm going to force my sister to listen to this because uh, she is a workaholic. She gets up at 5 a.m., studies, eats, sleeps, and the next day repeat. And it's starting to take a bit of a heavy toll on her. And actually, both me and my family, it's ironic really because we've been forcing her to play games to so we've been forcing her to take time away from her studies. I'm gonna force her to do this pomodoro technique. Sounds very good kasi nga she puts almost no time into friends, she puts almost no time into family, she puts almost no time into herself really. She studies and studies and studies, and it really takes away from her life. And well, it is good to study, don't get me wrong, but like Sir Pascal said, at some point you're not equally efficient throughout the day. At some point it will fall off, at some point it will spike. you know I think that I need to help her find those period of time so that she can be more efficient with her life.
I think it's also good feedback to especially us educators and formators that we don't just teach our students what to study, but to even study how to study. Like to again reflect their study techniques, like what Mr. Pascual suggested, the Pomodoro technique, and their other study habits related to that. Because again, like what you said, we're not efficient throughout the day. We have to pick up those points wherein we work best. And of course, it doesn't mean that you're going to shun the fact na, okay, etong times na mahina ako, sige, wag na. Pabayaan mo na. We can still work on those things. But take advantage of those points during the day that we can really put out our best. And then on those points na, yeah, ganun lang, let's see how we can alleviate those. Yeah.
Yeah. Not to add on what Mickey said, I watched this video online. There's this valedictorian, and this valedictorian, the story is that he was in line to be he was in line to win the valedictorian, like out of, like, for example, 10 people, he was part of one of them. And he decided that, okay, I'll work for it. I'll work hard for it. So he did. He worked hard for it, put in all the hours, put in all the time that he could to studying, and eventually he got it. And when he got the award, he said, "No, you know what? I Once I received the award, I regretted it 15 seconds later because," he said, "I put all that time into studying that I didn't have the time for my relationships, for my family, for my friends." So, like, what he said, from, like, he lost himself through studying, that he wanted to be the top, that he forgot about, his other priorities, his family and friends. So, yeah, let's not take too much time, like, studying, and really value the important things, family and friends, because they'll be for you, like, they'll be there for you when you're having a hard time. I mean, studies won't be there for you when you're having a hard time, like, "Oh, I'm struggling right now. Oh, studies will probably help me." No, to be honest, it'll be your family and your friends, and most of all, God. So, yeah, guys, remember always to cherish your relationships with your family, friends, and God. Miggy, any other comments, or Sir Pascual or Sir Perez?
Actually, Lucas, I'm pretty sure I've seen that exact video. It was a valedictorian. It was a speech, right? As a valedictorian,
Yeah.
he said.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think an important quote that came from him was that uh, he threw away his life, he threw away his family, he threw away everything for a handshake and a piece of paper
For 5 minutes, he said, for a 5 minute speech. He said,
and the 5 minute speech here. And as much as I'd like to, well, there's a lot more to talk about with this topic. There's a lot of, a lot has been discussed. Running out of time, so uh, I'd just like to quickly ask, um, to the people, for the people, sorry, who are very very stressed. Actually, this kind of has been answered though. Can you give advice to people going through stress problems, Sir Pascal?
Um, you know, I remember this quote. I'm going to do a shout out to Rafa Encarnacion if he's listening or something, because I remember his speech. He gave it during the recognition day. I think he quoted another person about it. So you see, Rafa brought with him a pitcher of water and a glass during recognition day, and then he said, "You see, our problems are like it's like this glass of water. Okay, if you find yourself holding the glass for like 1 minute, okay, it won't tire you out. Okay, but if you hold this glass for 1 hour, okay, you're definitely going to feel something in your muscles. You force yourself even more to keep holding on to that glass for, let's say, 2 3 hours. Pagod ka na talaga. The key there, you can remember to put the glass down. You can put the glass down. Come back for the glass. Sometimes, like what you said, the guy, the valedictorian, he traded his relationships for 5 minutes of the speech and the handshake. So our problems sometimes are like that glass. You force yourself to hold on to that glass of water, but then you once you become aware of the fact that you can put it down and then rest, you rest, okay, reset your mind, your body, okay, then pick it up again for whatever purpose you might have for it, right? Sometimes you force yourself, okay, I need to study, I need to finish this, i need to I need to do these things because there's a deadline. Okay, why are you cramming anyway? Diba? The things were given to you at uh, earlier, no? So you remember to rest, and if you be honest with yourself, like this is the only thing that I can do for this set of time. I think I would need, I would get tired like after. Then rest. Remember to come back at the task until you finish it. Some guys find it hard to, okay, they hit the first bump in studying. Okay, I won't do this anymore, it's hard, sir. Ayaw na, ayaw nang balikan yung math, for example, after they hit the first speed bump. You can ask for help if you just ano if you just force yourself to keep holding on to that glass. Diba? You won't be able to do anything. So rest, ask for help. Yeah, you can do that. You have other options.
Well, as actually you're thinking about that now, that's a really good analogy. Because with the glass, like, you can hold it for, if you hold it for 2 hours straight, you're gonna be tired. But if you hold it for like 5 minutes at a time, take 1 minute breaks, you can hold that glass for a total of 2 hours as still, but in the end you won't be tired. You can still keep going and holding that glass. Even the small breaks can amount to a lot if it's consistent.
Yeah, like taking it step by step. Like, you don't need to do it all in one go. Like, oh, I will finish all of my to-dos in one go. But what if, and like for example, you have a family event, then you have a school event, but, or like you have homework to do, but you also have some family things to do, and you have some prayer things to do. What if you do that all in one? If you do school work in just one blast, you'll be tired. Like, sige na, I'll just skip na the family thing tomorrow. I'll just pray na lang tomorrow. You'll get tired of it. So like, if you take it step by step, like, okay, I can do my schoolwork now, and then in my break I can pray, and then maybe the next day I can do family. So like, take it step by step, and like, take, yeah, baby steps. It doesn't need to be one big step. Just take small steps, and eventually that will lead you to your goal. And I like the speech that, I mean, I wasn't there, but from what it sounded like, Rafa's speech was very, very, very impactful. And even I didn't hear the whole thing, by what Sir Pascual said, that really meant a lot. And also, um, yeah, that hold it, when you hold the glass of water, you shouldn't hold it for a very long time. Let go. Learn to also let go. Like, I can't have this all the time, and all that. Learn to let go, because you can't do everything that you want at the same time. Like, a good example is, like, for me, if I would want to go to Lantaka, or if I want to go out with my friends, or if I want to spend time with my family, I think I've said this in an episode before, but like, if you want to do family, you have to let go of your friends and your lantaka. If you want to do your family, you have to let go of your. I think I said that. Sorry, I'll repeat. So if you want to focus on your family, you have to let go of your friends and lantaka. If you want to focus on your friends, you have to let go of family and lantaka. If you want to focus on lantaka, you have to remove your family and friends, so etc. etc. So like, you learn to let go and take it step by step. Uh,
I don't
okay.
think. it's not just a matter of like letting go just because you can't attend to it. Because the mere fact you're trying to make priorities, you're trying to realize the perfect order, or at least the best order, the best way to put things together. Like again, yeah, probably work can be a very long time. And then you lose time for prayer. You think you lose time for prayer, or at least you put it towards the end. But if you put prayer again at the start, then you wouldn't have to worry about it. Then you can spend all day working, etc. So, I mean, yeah, you will also experience that. I think failure is the best teacher uh, of experience, if that's the way to put it. Na when I used to go to Lantaka, and I'm sure when Mr. John Pascual also used to go to Lantaka, then you
Yeah.
start deciding na Lantaka ba, family ba, ganyan. And then you realize you have 7 days in a week. You have 24 hours, 7 days in a week. And then, okay, these are the times I can go to Lantaka. These are the times I can attend to my family. These are the times I have to really work. Then, okay, slowly but surely get the balance. That's why, like what Mr. Pascual and I have been saying, as much as possible, try not to sacrifice the relationships you have. Because, again, yeah, Lantaka is a center, but there you also form relationships with the people there. In other places, you form relationships with them as well. So there.
And
You know,
just to be
sorry.
clear, when you put time for, let's say, your formation in Lantaka, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're already sacrificing your other friends.
Mm.
So, say your study time. No, it doesn't mean that way. You're just putting your time first for that specific activity, or for your specific people that you want to hang out with. No? It's not that you're letting go of the other things entirely. No, you're just putting time, because you can always make time for the other things that you find important. You can make time. You're just choosing. Yeah. Yun lang.
Well, I think an important thing to remember with what both of you said, especially with like managing and distributing time, is that there's no such thing as wasted time. That time that went by, something happened with it. Even if it's like, for example, if you fell asleep, it's a time to spend resting. If you're stuck in traffic, it's, well, time spent learning patience or something. There's no, like, no matter what, time always goes somewhere. It always it always works towards something.
Yeah, well, honestly, when I decided yesterday to visit a friend, former teacher in Northfield, who's now a priest, Father Cholo Luistro. So I had to commute from Antipolo all the way to Manila. So of course, there's a lot of time wasted in riding the jeep, etc. But I like to think of it this way: that the time that I get to spend doing nothing is actually a time for me to rest from being in the moment of dealing with students or what I have to do. But I can't do anything in the jeep for the sake of my own personal security, or, I mean, really, it's just I just have to be in the moment and enjoy it, and then take it as a form of rest. That's
Yeah.
why I think Saint Josemaria said, rest doesn't mean literally to do nothing, but trying to do something else which requires less force or exertion, but take advantage of that as a way for you to bounce back to the usual grind.
Yeah. Sometimes you also get to choose your own music, right? So for
Yeah.
me, it's a long drive from Antipolo to my home. So it's a long drive. Sometimes you think about, you get to remember the things for work, or sometimes the things that you need to study. Right? Then you also have to also cherish the time that you have at the moment. The drive, okay, it's time for myself. I find sometimes when the traffic is good, I find it relaxing to drive. There are times, syempre, hindi lahat ng drivers are okay drivers. So, So you also have those frustrations. But these things you can offer. You can offer as a sacrifice, like okay, I'll deal with my frustrations, and I offer it up to you, Lord. You know how I feel about these things. Then I offer this time for you. So sometimes nakakalimutan natin na yun. Nakakalimutan natin. Then when we do remember, okay, God is with me. You seem to be finding yourself, you know, in a better mindset to make decisions.
Yeah. No, I feel like God, like, if He would put traffic there, like, what if, like, for the past few days you've been feeling impatient? Like, I feel like, what if God put the traffic there? So, like, He's like, oh, maybe you should take time and, take a time to look around and, enjoy what you see, despite it being heavy traffic. Like, for some reason, like, if I feel impatient, and like all of a sudden when my family goes up for that, for example, for context, for past few days, I've been feeling very impatient, like, oh, if something doesn't go my way, I'll get mad. But then what happens when my family travels is traffic. So, like, uh, you're going to be stuck there for like 30 minutes or 15 to 30 minutes. Like, I think that's God's way of telling you, like, oh, maybe it's time for you to be patient. Maybe it's time for you to calm down and, maybe be appreciative with, with what you have and all that. So,
I
maybe.
think, well, it is a little reassuring to know that the Jeep that decided to park in the middle of the road to let people off was placed there by God as a test for me. You know? Well, there's a lot more that I'd like to add to what has been said, but speaking of time, we are you both of you are, well, busy people, and, well, we're running out of it. So so that we get to so that Lucas and I can give our insights, let us move on to our 2 cents section. Wait, actually, wait. Sorry. Before that, would both of you like to give final words?
Shout outs or um,
Yeah.
Mr. Pascual.
Me, well, shout out to Cisco Tobias. Hello, Cisco Tobias, and to Rafa Encarnacion. The the team captains are working very hard in the past few days. So I hope you all support your team captains, your individual team captains. Yeah, Sport Family Day. Go Northfield. Yeah.
Mr. Perez, any shout outs?
Actually, more of question. I'm just curious to know what Mr. Pascual's house was when he was a student before. If it was really Angkor or if he's just assigned now.
No. I was Anchor. I think I was not. I didn't get to pick my house. I was assigned Anchor's house.
Yeah.
Then it was a shock because in preschool, binta yung shorts ko nung preschool. And then nung nag-Northfield na ako, ayan, parang, uy,
Hindi
Anchor, okay.
consistent.
Uy, red yung, okay, I like red now. Ayun. Then, yeah, Anchor kind of, I was, yeah,
Dismaya to
found
si
it
Miggy,
fun
eh.
to be in Anchor.
Sir, wait. Are both of you anchors, sir? I forgot if you were
Yes.
anchor, Mr. Fred. So that makes me the lone Vinta.
Before we had Mr. Watt. Shout out to Mr. Watt. So he was Vinta. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Woohoo!
Ito yung special doon. Si Mr. Watt, yung first ever Vinta alumnus who taught again in Northfield. Yung special yun.
I thought you were gonna end it at the first ever Vinta alumnus, implying that he's the only one, the only Vinta to have ever graduated.
No, but wasn't the first one was Mr. Bokhill. He was anchor.
He was anchor.
Yeah.
First anchor siya. And then Sir
Okay.
Juan was the first Vinta.
Oo. Kasi looking at the list of alumni, parang mostly anchor eh. Even Mr. Fritz Delgado. I think he was anchor.
Then, si Coach. Coach Quito.
Ah, yeah, that's right. Coach Keith. Mr. Dizon also.
Yeah. So again, guys, don't forget to support your teams on Family Day, and to support your hardworking captains and co-captains. You can really, I really saw it in Cisco's face after the practices. Like, he looked so tired, and you know that he's giving it his all. You know that the captains are giving it their all. So again, um, find some time probably to say thank you, Kuya Cisco, or thank you, Kuya Rafa, or thank you to the co-captains. It will probably mean it might seem very simple, but it could mean a lot to them. So again, guys, yeah, thank you again, Mr. Pascual and Mr. Perez, for joining us in this episode. And with that, Miggy, let's move on to 2 cents.
That was
Wow.
a very long episode, wasn't
Very,
it?
very
So
long
far?
episode. I think this is our longest episode yet. And to be honest, I think this was the most impactful to me. Like, I learned a lot about this in this episode, and you know, um, with that, before Miggy and I share our key takeaways, we would like to ask you, our 40 viewers, what was your key takeaway from today's discussion? And feel free to comment it down in our comment section, and we will be answering your questions later. And with that, Nikki, what was your key takeaways?
I think a very important thing is to rephrase the question of how to balance work, life, and family, and sorry, work, life, and prayer. I think was that. Well, sorry. Anyway, I think it's a. My point is, the word. I think we can take prayer out of the question of how to balance it, because that first and foremost, prayer should be at the forefront of absolutely everything. No matter, no matter how much time you have for work or for yourself or for your family, you should always put God first.
Yeah, tama. That's what Sir Pascual said, right? Put God first and everything second. Yeah, just
Yes.
put God first, and then as I said earlier, do your best, and God will do the rest. Do you have any other insights or key takeaways, Mickey?
Well, I think although a lot we could we could discuss in detail everything they said, but I think a very important thing with this episode is that it's very personal. Those watching, those listening, you have to answer and ask those questions yourselves to yourselves. You know, like what Sir Perez said. Sir Perez. Each wayfarer follows his own path, as long as it leads to that goal, which I think is very important. And that goal, well, in this context at least, is the balance, right? So, yeah. How about you, Lucas?
For me, it's just when Mr. Perez said, like, even if I feel very overloaded in school, I end up going home not complaining, because every time I deal with each of my students, I'm like, this is gold. This is precious to me. Yeah, that is true. Like, even though I live in Rizal, it still takes quite a while to get to school, and like sometimes it's very traffic. Sometimes you get tired, like, oh, I'm seeing the same thing all over again. Like, like you're so used to it. Not like, oh, this when you turn here, there's this building and all that. But when you reach school, it's gonna be really different. And like by the end of the day, you're not gonna think of like the traffic or the things you see. Or you're not gonna think of the bad things. You're gonna think of the good things. Like, hey, I spent more time with my classmates. Yesterday, wait, when is that? Yesterday, on Thursday, I got to spend more time with my friends. I got to spend time to shout out to these guys, the Yuan Sarangaya. I got to spend time more with Kale Jimenez. I wouldn't think, to be honest, I wouldn't think of hanging out with Kale, but I learned a lot about him. And also Kino San Luis. Talagang what we talked about talaga was really, 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 really funny, and conversations like the start of the day is like, oh, it's gonna be practice na naman, and all that's gonna be time. But when I hung out with my friends, talagang like, oh, the practice is there, but it's not bad. Like I got to spend time with my friends and all that. But not saying the practice was bad, but I wasn't complaining at the end. I was very happy with what happened. Um, Also, what other things?
So Vinta, I
Mm,
don't know what goes on in Anchor, but I can agree. I spent a lot of the day just sitting down, talking to people, playing frisbee, doing whatever, just enjoying the day. I actually made it a point to not look at my phone that entire day, because I know if I did, like, I'd think about work, I'd think about other things. I
yeah,
just wanted it's important to just enjoy the moment.
yeah.
And
But
what Kobe said, prioritizing your time for family and God doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice it other time, because thoughts, Lucas.
prioritizing your time for farming doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your time for other things like um prioritizing your time for farming doesn't mean you have to sacrifice your time. Yeah, I mean, like, you can set times like, oh, in the morning I could spend time with my friends, and then afternoon with God, and etc. Like, there's always a time and thing for everything. And yeah, that no time is really wasted, like what Kobe says. Wow, so many things about Kobe. I also love when they mention the time that no time is wasted, because I always think that when I'm not able to accomplish a lot in a day, I feel like I wasted so much time resting. Thanks for this. Yeah, talagang like, um time is no time is wasted. Again, like what you said kanina, no time is wasted. Like, it's always gonna be put into something. Like, if I put time for games, that's gonna help me in something. Like, probably help me in my, what if, for example, you get a scholarship because you do games. There's some type of thing here. Now, if you do really well in video games, you could get a scholarship. So what if you could hone your skills in playing games, and you could get a scholarship? So, like, no time is wasted. Also for God, like, no time is wasted when you're with God. No time is also wasted with family. So,
I mean,
um,
it's an age-old quote, right?
yeah,
When a door closes, a window opens.
yeah,
You just have to really look. Yeah, you really have to go and look for that window. It doesn't just come to you.
yeah. Also, another
Well,
impactful thing the the speech of Rafa. But I mean, like, sorry, I wasn't there. It's a speech. I wasn't there. Pero from what I heard from Sir Pascual, and what I heard from you guys, from what I heard, but it sounded really, really impactful. Like, put down the glass of water. That makes it literally like, that glass of water makes it literal. Like, oh, if you're gonna spend so much time holding this glass of water, you're gonna get tired. You're gonna, not be able to do anything else. But if you let go and rest, you'll have more time to do it. So yeah, again, put you can as in verse zero, or as in verse zero said, you can put down the glass of water. Learn how to take breaks, and again, that also leads to the Pomodoro technique. Na 25, you can split your time into 25 minutes and then take a break. So there. I guess that's all we have for today. Again, this is our longest episode. So,
yes, I hope the viewers get to, like, we'll listen. We'll go back and listen to this again, because there's a lot
yeah,
to have thought about within this. So yeah,
yeah. So, please stay tuned, Masters. We're having our we are not sure yet when we will have our next episode, but don't worry, Mariners. We will announce it. And also, if you are interested in joining FORTIKAST, please message me, the executive producer, and for more details.
Yes, it's been a pleasure being here. Especially, thank you very much, Mr. Pascal and Mr. Kiko, for spending an hour and 45 minutes with us here. Well, this has been Miggy Lopez and Lucas Lamzan. Virtus in Veritate, their strength in virtue. This has been FORTIKAST. Lucas, you say it. You say it.
Okay. Um, Again, thank you to all our viewers for watching FORTIKAST. This has been Lucas Lamson and Miggy Lopez. Virtus in Veritate, there is strength in virtue. This has been FORTIKAST online show, sharing good vibes and bring together the Northfield community. See you in our next episode. Fortuna, Fabet, Fortivus.